Um, I figured that there was a power issue with my interface, but all good.
I I knew how to fix your problem because I have had the exact same problem. I have quite a bit of. I bought a bunch of gear, not realizing that I needed to have power going to microphones. So I feel your pain
Yeah.
directly.
So let me ask, um, camera position, all that.
I have no complaints about it. You can judge once we have a recording of it, and you can adjust accordingly based on what you think of the next of the footage.
That works.
I'm trying to balance my microphone to be audible, but not up my nose.
Yeah. So I'm assuming since this is a cardioid that I have to speak into the front of it. But I see so many instances where people talk into the top. Um, I don't know if all things are equal or what, but
This microphone is the gold standard for I just started a podcast microphone, and it says on the box that you should speak towards the logo.
yeah, same here.
And then there's the capsule faces this way. There are several different patterns, but all of them are in a plane around this area of the microphone. And you constantly see people, including people who are sponsored by the company that makes this microphone, speaking into it like an ice cream cone.
Yeah.
That's not entirely fair though, because I side address my ice cream cones as well.
I haven't had an ice cream cone. uh, Like I can't remember the last time.
My 3-year-old had an ice cream cone yesterday.
That's the reward for the library visit, huh?
No, so his brother was at swimming lessons, and I took him. We rode on the family bike to go to the ice cream place that's next to the strip
Hold
mall.
on, hold on. Family bike. I'm envisioning like multiple seats and sidecars.
My wife wants a sidecar, but I couldn't find one, and also she wanted to ride the main, and I just wasn't acceptable. Like that wasn't going to be okay for me. It does so it has multiple seats. It's like there's a kind of a silly front seat, kind of up high, and then the back has a big baby seat on it. But it's got small. It's got kind of small wheels, so it's a weird cargo bike situation.
So you should do it up with like, you should do up a family bike in the fashion of like the first bike ever made, where there's a building size front tire and like a tricycle back tire, and see how that works out.
I think the nickname for those bikes is like neck breakers or widowmakers or something like that. I'm probably going to pass on that with my own kids.
How did people get on those? Seriously. I mean, those were
I think I had a friend in high school who had one. Like it was his, or I guess that was their. It was a bicycle built for one, but also that was their family bike, and one of their family things was he'd climb up on the big wheel bike and go pedal around the cul-de-sac.
see, that's one of those things where it's in line with, I tell myself like the golden age of travel was when you'd wear a three-piece and a fedora, and everybody looked awesome on planes. Conceptually I want that, but I also feel like those are the people that we make fun of today. And I think there's an element of cool to having the big wheel bike, but also I'd probably hate that person.
He seemed nice. He wasn't too uptight about it. The unicyclist, different kid. He was a little that was a little much. But you have another bone to pick, don't you? That's why we're here.
I have,
You have
yeah, I don't, you know, bone to pick or observation. You know,
you decide.
that's the uh, that's the place I find myself a lot. Is at my core, I'm a creator. I'm a builder, and I don't like to launch bombs or lob grenades. I think we have too much of that anyway. But I do have some fairly robust, shall we say, opinions on AI and just sort of the public discourse of it. So,
I have a framing question though.
sure.
It's not even a question per se. It's more of a demand.
Oh no.
I think you're. I need you to help me care about AI.
Sometimes I need me to help myself care about it. It's like pop music. I look at, once in a blue moon, I don't go seeking like a top 40 listing, but once in a blue moon, I'll stumble across like the top 40. I know no one in the top 40. And I congratulate myself on, being out of popular culture. With I get the same vibe sometimes. Like, what's the newest, what are the latest sort of things that people are attributing to AI and success that are, you know, things that I don't know. So yeah, I oscillate between, but the problem for me is I've seen the value of when an entity or when a firm, sorry, but when an entity or a firm is disciplined with AI and like employs it the right way, all of the hype can be manifest, it can be realized, but there's a big disconnect between how, what's possible and how to do it.
If I start as soon as I'm done here on becoming an expert in AI, am I going to be too late to the party to get a fat paycheck from AI?
Your lead.
Because that would make me care. I'd care if I could go learn. I'm trying to even come up with an example. I'll come up with a non-example. If I could go learn to be an expert in um, Google's home assistant, and that would get me rich, then I would be motivated to care about AI a lot.
So yeah, Google's Home Assistant is one application of AI. There are others. So I'd say if you're looking for the sort of gold rush, get rich quick scheme,
Yeah, you got it. Those are the words. That's the stuff that I want. How do I get rich quick from the hype?
a lot of people on Instagram have like 10-second videos on how to do it. So I would say, just jump on Instagram and let one of those people walk you through the gold rush that is AI.
No, you're not doing that yourself.
I am not. Um,
And I'm not doing that myself.
yeah,
Are we screwing up? Should we be doing that instead of whatever we're doing?
we laugh about this, and this to me brings up like, again, I started this framing with, I don't want to be a gunslinger, like I'm a builder and I'm a creator, but there is the funniest juxtaposition for me probably of my entire adult life, of my entire life, and there are many, but this is one of them, and it's this with AI specifically. So you have Elon Musk, which, people have their opinions of him for whatever reason, whatever.
He's the one of the PayPal founders. Is that correct? That's the guy you're talking about.
Yeah, X. Yes,
Is X a spinoff of PayPal?
a lot of things. A lot of things are spinoffs of PayPal.
All right, so you have Elon Musk.
Yeah, you have Elon Musk, who, whatever your opinion of him is, um, clearly a bright, accomplished guy. I think we can agree on that. I mean, he's not like 1990s GE guy. Like, he's, doing next generation stuff. Brilliant guy with his companies that are doing really technically complex things, has an army of the smartest engineers on the face of the planet. I think we can agree on that. Objective assessment. Has a really strong, brilliant team of engineers for his companies, his portfolio of companies.
I've got my fact checkers looking into it, but anecdotally, I don't see any reason to disagree with you
I
here.
think anecdotally we're good. So you have that juxtaposition. Him, yes, he's a showman. Yes, he's trying to sort of impact his stock price. But you have him saying, look, AI is hard. Achieving AI is hard. Executing fully autonomous vehicles is hard. With an army of the smartest engineers on the face of the earth. So that's one side of the juxtaposition, the AI juxtaposition. The other is industrial company X with, a PhD and a handful of data camp trained scientists and a CEO from not Elon Musk's stature going into public saying that they're executing AI at scale. That they've got this AI platform that they're delivering to their 20,000 global customer base at scale.
Let's say they make an ingredient that goes into paint that makes the paint more shiny. That's their that's their claim to fame.
Yeah, something like that. Or we'll talk about this another day. It's the concept of tools, AI tools versus solutions. But yeah, there's a spectrum of things here, and I think we're it's such a unique time because it's the Wild West, and you can be any point on that spectrum and claim to be everywhere on that spectrum at the same time. And that's what I love about today is if you get into, and I feel like I'm watching a different movie than everybody else around AI, because if you get into how do you build the infrastructure to train and deploy AI algorithms, it's real hard, really, really hard. And I think um, again, I think that's kind of where we find ourselves today is you can be anywhere on the maturity scale spectrum of AI. And, one end of that spectrum is we know how to spell AI. The other end is we're delivering global solutions. You can be anywhere in that spectrum and claim to be everywhere in that spectrum. And you cannot be wrong. And I think that's what I find amusing today.
I don't feel a lot of compulsion to go shop for something that I can buy or use right now with AI as a search term or a criteria.
Here's the beauty of it. And look, I'm bullish long term on generative AI. For a variety of reasons. In terms of scalable solutions, I think it's of the AI applications, and I think we should have a proper conversation about the semantics of AI at some point. But I think of all the AI applications, whether it be computer vision, text, analytics, language processing, I think generative has the brightest future in terms of scalability. Um, but the beauty of it today is it's like recommendation engine in the sense that it doesn't matter if it's wrong. It's not like you're predicting lung cancer or you're doing something where a false positive, an inaccurate prediction has real world consequences. And that brings me to sort of the what I think we want to get into conceptually about AI is that there are multiple truths. One of those is we should celebrate and be excited about the possibility. I think we're at we're on the cusp of something technologically distinct, and I think AI will be there at some point. Is now probably, but I also think that there are there are legitimate questions to be had about the hype versus so what do you think? You've no doubt read the headlines. Do you think that AI is like the end of civilization as one camp predicts, or do you think it is the best thing that's ever happened technologically, and then the world will never be the same? I mean, there are pretty polar ends of the spectrum with that.
I find myself surprised by how hard it is for the human mind to grasp duality, meaning there can be good and bad people. This seems so simple as to be not worth stating. Similarly, AI can cause security and privacy issues while also doing things that we want. This seems very uncomplicated. But then I look at the ink spilled over it, and I look at the dinner table conversations with people's grandparents, and then I'm like, this seems like it's getting over complicated, and the sides are sort of based on lines drawn in the sand and existing deeply held beliefs, and also that maybe we're not talking about AI anymore, and that the feud is actually about your take on on humanity.
So this is, stepping outside of the AI conversation. This is something I think about a lot. Is I wonder, with the advent of the cotton gin or the printing press or the wheel or fire, was there hand wringing about what those developments would lead to? Was there hand wringing about progress? Like, is this cyclical? Do we think that there's something unique about the advent of AI in relationship to all the other technological advances historically? Like that, I think about that a lot. Is this legitimate concern, or is this just what humans do? There's the concept of millennialism, where every turn of the millennial, people flip out and think this is the end of humanity. Is that same conceptually? Do we do the same thing with big technological advances? I don't know. Somebody's probably written a very interesting book on that, or at least a paper of some sort. But I think about that a lot.
I mean, there were Luddite rebellions against the weaving loom in the 18th century. And like in a nutshell, the issue was looms were going to put weavers out of business or something like that. And that's several hundred years ago. And we've co-opted the term Luddite to
Sure.
mean somebody who's anti-technology, which is totally unfair, according to what I've read on Wikipedia about Luddites. Because I don't actually think they were against technology. I think they were against the application of technology, and they may have been, arguably they were against the system of ownership and the early vestiges of capitalism, in the sense of capitalism being somebody owns capital and they make returns from owning capital. And if you work at making socks by hand, you don't own the capital, you work for somebody who does. So I don't know. I think it's unfair to just assume that Luddites hate technology and to use that as a blanket statement or a wide brush. But the good news is I don't think there are any actual Luddites left to be offended by this. I think they've disbanded.
Okay, so I want to question that, and I don't know what this group is called, but I was in South Dakota. When I first got in the industrial world, I covered 12 states of the Upper Midwest, which
Yeah.
has been my favorite time of my professional life. By the way, I enjoyed that tremendously. But I was in South Dakota and was I sat at a bar at a restaurant just to have dinner, and these people that looked like Mennonites. Do you know what Mennonites are?
Yeah. Yeah.
Like Amish light. Uh,
Yeah.
they sat down beside me and, like, drinking, just normal people, but looked like Mennonites. And I asked the bartender after they left, I was like, you know, back in my area, the Mennonites would not belly up to a bar and have booze and eat steak and talk like I was talking. And I think this bartender, said they were Luddites,
Get out of here.
but that can't be true. It's like it's another name that has "ite" at the end. They were ites of some sort, but they were native to that area. I think, like, Nordic by nature or by origin. Obviously, a lot of that area is Nordic, but yeah. So they were a religious group that was into technology, had a lot of money, presumably, but yet were, maybe not super cultured. But anyway, Luddite discussion made me think of that group, which I'm sure is not Luddite. So we'll have to do some research on that.
Did you know Vandals was also named after a cultural group? Like if like vandalism, the Vandals were just a group of people that were pillagers in some way.
Great band too, by the way.
The Vandals or the pillagers?
I'm sure there's a metal band somewhere named the Pillagers.
I don't see how there could not be a band named the Pillagers.
Yeah. Not today. I mean, for sure in the 70s there was a band named the Pillagers, but you would probably be hard pressed to find an artist or musician to name their band the Pillagers today. Although I think that's coming back.
Okay, let's go in the action items. Look up the Pillagers and license their music.
I think we have about 25 things that just need to go into the action item list from this conversation.
Uh, I think that I have another question for you based on your pre-show notes to your bones to pick from before the show. Uh, who are you hearing say that AI is a single-use problem solver for everything at once?
Um,
Is somebody really saying that? Or are you making this up and
no,
exaggerating?
this is for sure a thing. This is like the El Nino weather pattern of the early 2000s or the late 90s, where it's the catch-all for everything. If there's a global problem, if there's a geopolitical issue, it's El Nino. That's AI today. I think, and this has been my experience. So, admittedly, this is just in terms of my individual work experience and exposure to different companies. AI is a catch-all for everything. When you're out of ideas, let's throw AI at it. And again, I think this is probably my one of a big, sort of point of contention for me with AI as well, is that the semantics of AI matter. You could probably semantically play the game that a lot of things are AI, but for folks in the know, there are about 4 or 5 applications that are really considered AI. Com-
What are they?
Computer vision, language processing, text, generative, I think would be in that category now. And I think those are the main ones. I mean, you could probably make the case that recommendation engines are, but to me, they're, best case, just simple AI. But it's probably, I've stopped caring about this point because it's just such a losing battle. If you're talking about AI today, there are just a handful of cases or applications that are really considered AI. There's machine learning. There's just applied math and statistics, linear models. There's linear applications, but AI, I think, is something very specific.
Okay, can I make a game for next time called Is It AI?
What's that?
Can I make a game called Is It
Is it
AI?
AI? Yeah, I think we should do that. I think we should do
Okay,
that.
I'll make Is It AI.
Yeah, I think
I don't know. The only people who ask me what AI is, I, I'm like, I don't know. I'm not an expert in AI, and I also, even if I was an expert in AI, I'm not sure I would be able to answer your question because your general question of can AI do blah 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 thing. I know about machine vision, and I can talk to you about things that a camera based system can be used for to process an image or a video in order to separate pieces of that. For example, if I want to like take a picture of Terry with his background and I want to separate him from the background automatically. I understand that, and like, do I care if it's AI? I absolutely do not care if it's AI. What I care about is I need to understand enough of this to where the image is pixels. The pixels are tiny squares. All of those squares are different colors. If I was going to separate Terry manually, I would find where the line is around Terry and I would use my eyeballs to, digitally select the pixels that surround Terry and then delete all the other ones. Like I need to understand that concept. And then from there, it's can a computer be a substitute for my eyeballs and brain? Eyeballs meaning detect that there is a pixel that is a different color. Brain meaning somehow grasp that this is a border or boundary around Terry as opposed to a shadow, right?
I mean, you're there are like 15 different things that have come up in this conversation that we should spend a lot of time on. This is one of them. And in the industrial sense, like what does an AI, and I don't even know what the differences are. I'm going to be honest with you. Like, I have a background in industrial automation. I understand traditional machine vision applications really well. What does an AI based system give you that you can't get outcome wise, that you can't get with a traditional machine based vision system?
So I should just keep telling people, why are you asking me? I'm in the clear.
Yeah, ask them what they want from an AI system that you can't get from.
I'll tell you what I effing want. I'm not going to cuss on this because then I'll have to put a note on it that it has cussing. But I'll tell you what I effing want. If AI can tell the difference between a tool inside a milling machine, a vise that's holding the part, and the part, I want that. I can't do that with a vision system now because it's all shiny and wet. And if all of this wasn't shiny, reflective, wet metal, then I could just slap a vision system inside a machine and I'd be able to tell the difference between this, that, and the other thing. Instead, I have to like pre tell the machine, here's the space where the clamp is, and the machine has to come preloaded with here's where my bed is to the machine versus here's where the spindle is. You brought up Instagram. You know what's all over Instagram? People smashing machines into themselves. Just machine, go bam. Oh, you didn't know? Well, I mean, it boggles the mind. If you can AI fix that, then I'm going to bring that to market, and all I'm going to say is your machine is going to stop crashing itself. And I'm not going to call it AI unless I have to make money. But otherwise, I'll just say your machine won't drill into itself anymore.
So, what about tolerances that are programmed into the controller of the machine? It feels like that could all be solved by a proper program.
So think about it as speed, right? So if I'm going to make do I have a machined part directly within reach? Yes. If I'm going to make this from a block of aluminum, and I'm going to have it sitting this is my vise. I'm doing manual work holding. So this is my vise. Being able to, so that the vise has to go into the machine controller, so that when you're going to come down here and you're going to remove material with a drill and an end mill and whatever else this way, you have to tell the controller that's going to control where that tool goes. You have to say, what's the length of this tool? What's the shape of the tool? What's the length of the holder that the tool goes in? Then that you'd have to basically say, give a geometric model of what the vise is that's holding the workpiece. You then have to say, what's the workpiece itself look like to some extent. You can pre-program all that stuff, but there's no room for basically error proofing other than a pre-program versus another pre-program versus a guy sitting there peering into the machine as this process takes place and being like, oh, I think maybe it's going to go instead of the way it's not supposed to, right? So that's all I have to say about that. I would throw this over my shoulder in rage, except it would probably break something, even though it's aluminum. It's heavy.
It looks heavy.
Just threw it on the floor. Stupid machining.
So, I guess my experience with that type of application is with a major automotive manufacturer where
Yep.
um, spot welding robots on the chassis of the car,
Yep.
they have a concept called tack time. And it's, the objective is to improve the amount of time that chassis is in this particular spot so it can get on with the production process.
Right.
So the robots are retaught based on improving tack time and not necessarily what's in the best interest of the robot or the servo motors.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So a lot of time, if the work cell is optimized for tack time, it's going to put a strain somewhere in the system. And I think I say this on good authority, there's a good case for AI to be had there. Like, what is the relationship between the path of the robot and premature motor wear? And
Right, and as you add additional variables to the equation, so if you have more motors, if you have so let's say you're going to you'll solve the motor wear, the premature motor wear problem by identifying this is the impact that the takt time improvement has on motor wear. Great. Now there will be the next choke point, and that never ends. There will always be another choke point. So being able to keep going down the path of what's the problem now, what's the next thing that's in the way, and being able to do that forever as a matter of continuous improvement, as opposed to, great, we solved the motor issue, we're done, this line can now go run for 30 years.
so you just summed up beautifully, I might add, the challenge. We were, or conceptually today, we wanted to talk about the multiple truths of AI. Here's one of the challenges. There's another big one, but here's one of the challenges, especially with applied AI in industry, is there is no such thing. And I will scream this from the rooftops. This is my bone of contention, especially with the industrial world. There is no such thing as canned analytics. There is no such thing as you train an algorithm one time and release it into the wild, and 20,000 customers can use your algorithm to optimize their process. This is a discipline. AI is all of the positive things that it's hyped to be. But do you have the discipline to do this daily, and to marry your data science and data engineering teams with your production people and your operators, and have a collaborative team that is problem solving with the augment of AI? AI is an augment and can do wonders if it's, like diet and exercise. If it's part of a company's daily discipline, yeah, it'll change the company, but it's not an algorithm that you throw at something and expect it to solve, all your heal the sick, cure the lame,
Well,
all that.
I mean, look, no, I don't have the stomach for that, because I'm a middle manager in corporate manufacturing, and I get paid based on hitting my KPIs and my OKRs. And I need to go out there, and I need to fulfill my obligations to procurement, and I need to procure a solution, and I need to demonstrate the improvement from the solution that I procured and installed, and then I need to get my money, and then I need to go on a boat. And then I need to be replaced by the next person who comes in when my thing doesn't work anymore 4 years later, and the former golden boy is now removed for the next golden boy. Rinse, repeat, boat.
Yeah. And there are a lot of people lined up out the door that like to play that game as well. And
You know what? You know why it's not going to work is because I don't have a suit that fits at the moment. So that and I'm going to have to go get a nicer suit. It's 2023, so I can throw away my ties, but got to go get a nice blazer and an open buttoned top collar that shows off the tan that I got from the boat.
yeah, yeah, I that that is, and again, this is, I have war wounds, from this discussion, is the distinction between what's possible on a PowerPoint and what's possible in application. That's my biggest bone to pick with applied AI. A lot of possibilities, and they're real. All of the hype about AI is doable. It is realizable. Just like it's possible to have 6.5% body fat as an almost 50-year-old. But do you have the discipline to do that? And that's the question. AI is a discipline. It's a problem solving tool, but it's a discipline. And I think that's the biggest distinction. The other point I want to make, because I feel like I'm belaboring that one. But the other point that I want to make about, multiple truths of AI, there are benefits. It's hard. And benefits, by benefits, I don't want to undersell it. Like, you can change your company, you can change the way you go through life if you execute AI, but that's a discipline, like we talked about. One of the major drawbacks, and I hear this from the other end of the spectrum, you probably see it a lot too, but one of the major drawbacks with AI is, it's the end of civilization. Musk was on, it was either CNBC or, one of the cable channels, doing an interview about the dangers of AI. And his only like real point was that the pen is mightier than the sword. And I think that was his direct quote. the point being that you can fake things with AI. You can get Chat GPT to say whatever you want it to say. It's a risk. Like you can fake things. Um, I and this is like a probably a peripheral esoteric conversation that we don't want to have. But I would say, what's any different between what Chat GPT is going to output and what was written in the New York Times in 2001? What's the difference?
I'm not hearing a lot of complaints about the risks of phishing emails. I mean, it is an actual risk.
For sure. Well, people,
It's just not interesting.
a lot of people have had real issues financially and otherwise with phishing. Companies have had issues. Industries have had issues with phishing emails, and
Basic IT literacy is probably an area that affects more people directly than deep fakes.
what's great about ChatGPT though. I alluded to this earlier. Again, I root for technology generally. I root for it. I want it to succeed. I love it. I'm not like I see the dangers. It, I see the dangers, but I root for technology. But one of the things that I love about ChatGPT, and I think it's the perfect application for now, is you don't really know if it's wrong. I mean, you do.
Yeah, right.
You do, but what's it matter? Like if it's even remotely sensible, as long as it can remotely, and it's predicting the best next word, the highest probability that the next word that it predicts is the right word. That's There's no way to say. It's not like you're diagnosing lung cancer or you're doing something with it. That it doesn't really matter if it's wrong. If it's right-ish, well then you can trumpet the success of Chat GPT. Again, I'm bullish on it. I think it long term it's probably the most scalable AI application. But what I love about it is it's so malleable. You can kind of make it whatever you want it to be right now. The best thing ever, danger to civilization, and everything in between. It can be whatever you want it to be, because you can never say how wrong or how right it really is. Nobody knows how to. Nobody is evaluating the fit metrics or the how the algorithms, the foundational model algorithms are doing on new data. Nobody ever talks about that. Like as long as it doesn't seem like your crazy drunk uncle just spouting nonsense, then hey, this is a wonderful application of AI.
Do you know what my best performing LinkedIn post of the last year was? No hashtags. It had no hashtags. It didn't tag anybody. It was only like 6 words long. And I got literally thousands of impressions.
Oh well,
Do you have any guesses?
I have no idea.
I was probably like brushing my teeth while I wrote this or something, and I said Chat GPT and Bard are quite verbose. Like to me it's like a little bit funny. I mean, funny enough for me to post, but the really funny part is that it really took off. I'm like, what? And that was when I lost faith in algorithms.
Yeah. Can I just say this?
Please.
I don't know, like, if you take LinkedIn seriously or use it seriously, is there anything more cringe on the face of the earth than LinkedIn? Like some of the, it's I can't read, like I don't go through the feed. I can't do it. Like it just feels like there's a lot of like generic David Goggins type stuff, and it's not my thing.
I started using. I mean, this is a slight distraction. I started using LinkedIn a long time ago. I don't know when, but a long time ago in order to identify potential speakers for events. So I was helping put on conferences, and it was the best way to basically get like a baseball card's worth of information about a potential speaker and understand if they were going to be a good fit for the audience we were trying to bring in, roughly how much they were going to cost, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So I used it really aggressively for that. And since I also needed to be able to actually talk to those people or their connections, I was pretty strict about keeping um, who was in my network on LinkedIn, um, because I actually needed to be able to phone in a favor to them, and I would like go through the list and say, okay, well here's 300 people, all of whom I can contact right now and say, hey, we were thinking about having you or your coworker or this person you interacted with this one time online, uh, come speak at so and so event. So it was really useful for that, but that was a lot of years ago.
Yeah. I, uh, yeah.
Now I've decided that I'm not sure the influencer life is for me.
Oh, yeah. I've gone through phases with social media. Like I never use it. I have an Instagram, personally. I
Yeah,
have a couple of accounts. Like I've never had a TikTok. There's a lot of most things I've never had. I have a couple of like the traditional old person accounts, and
yeah, yeah.
I,
Classmates.com, MySpace, Ancestry.com.
yeah, yeah, I'm a big fan of throwing my genetic profile out in the public sphere.
Jesus.
But no, so I've had like two different occasions where I'm like, I'm going to use Instagram. I feel like I can do that. I feel like I should, I should participate somehow. Participate. And I've done like a post or two, a picture or two, and I'm like, I guess that's good. And I just can't do it. Like I don't care enough to keep up with it. It's the big issue that my band has had is people that could want to do really nice things for my band have been like, you need to be more active on social media. And that's a problem. I don't have I there are too many other things I'd rather be doing.
I learned about 20% of what I know about machining from Instagram in the mid 2010s before everybody realized that you should probably stop posting NDA parts as they get made
Yeah.
onto the internet.
Yeah,
All right. What are your final words?
that went fast.
Great.
Yeah.
That's good.
I think
Do it again tomorrow.
let's do it again tomorrow. I think I don't really have final words other than to say, AI is a technology. Generally, I root for it, but I think people should try a little harder to know what it really is and know what you can really do with it. And if a person, a company, a firm doesn't have the discipline to, you know, embedded into the discipline, the fabric, the culture of the company, like maybe, you know, don't say that you're scaling AI. Like know what you're doing. Like have a little intellectual curiosity. There's a lot of things like dig into it, figure out how it can help, and then stay on that course.
Find a real answer.
I feel like so at the end here, I feel like you need to police me. All right. I
Okay.
talk about things, and I don't know if what I just said this.
Everything's recorded.
Yeah, so I'll figure it out eventually. But I feel like I have conversations about things where I'm really interested,
Yeah.
passionate perhaps. I feel like I'm passionate about my children. I don't know about everything else, but really interested. And in my mind, I feel like I'm just having a passionate conversation, and that I'm being demonstrative, and but sometimes it comes across as like I forgot to take my meds, and I've grabbed the bullhorn, and I'm headed to the corner of the street to tell people about my Lord and Savior. And like I don't want to be that person. So if it seems like I'm getting preachy or getting a little outside of a normal conversation, then say something.
I'll help you. But also watch the video and get yourself used to what you like and don't, and practice is the answer.
Yeah. All right. Awesome.
Check this out. I got outro music. I don't know if any of it's any good. I've never really used it before. Oh, what happened to it? It just stopped. What am I changing here? Oh, that's the volume. There you go. Outro. See you next week. Week.